Hello, welcome to another edition of the Michigan Conservative Roundtable. We're like the five, but there's only three of us and without Dana Perino. Today we're getting another Marty monologue, and the Marty monologue is going to be about how the progressives are at war with reality. And I'm going to begin with a little Shakespeare for you, just to demonstrate that, you know, we're high class here in the MCR. A rose by any other name would smell as sweet. What did he mean by that? He meant that no matter what we call that flower, it's a rose. No matter what we say that thing is, it is what it is. Okay? Reality. Reality is important. Okay? Now I'm going to give you a quick little philosophy lesson. How do we know that we can trust reality? How can we really know that something is true or something else is false? Well, there's three basic ways of knowing. There's self-evidence, direct experience, and proof. Proof we get on the word of reliable authorities, competent people. For example, none of us have met George Washington, but we know in the word of competent historians that George Washington was the first president of the United States. We've got proof. Another way then is direct experience. We've experienced things. I know that Brooklyn, New York exists because I've been there. Direct experience, okay? But perhaps the most important way we know is self-evidence. Things which are simply true on their own merit, and we accept the fact that they're true and get on with our lives and build to other truths, or we reject it at our peril. We reject it where we kind of go down a slippery slope to a sort of anything goes, and we'll get back to that in a minute. C.S. Lewis said famously that all truth begins with self-evidence. As a matter of fact, I believe the exact quote was, without self-evidence, nothing can be true. So our knowledge begins with self-evidence, and because of that, we can make statements which we are certain are true. Judgments we know, beyond doubt, are true. I exist. I sit at a table. Mac and TJ are behind the camera in rapt attention, listening to every word coming out of my mouth. All right, that last one might not have been quite so true, but you get the point. We can make statements we know are true. We can know things are true. What have we got with the progressives? They've gotten away from self-evidence. I call it a philosophic mistake, but I think it's by design. They want to get away from reality. And what's one of the ways that they're getting away from morality is manifesting itself in this day and age? Transgenderism. We've got the problem of transgender males competing in women's athletics, and that is beginning to affect the effect of young women being able to get college scholarships, just plain winning track meets or whatever. You know, it's an unfair competitive thing. It's a unbalanced competition. Okay, when you bring in men to compete against women, and it's beginning to hurt women. And I'm going to tell you something. I hope this destroys women's athletics. I hope it absolutely destroys women's athletics, because I think what our progressive friends need is a lesson in reality. They need to remember or be reminded or be smacked in the back of the head with the fact that decisions have consequences. Rights don't exist in a vacuum, but they exist in reality. If you're a guy, you don't deserve to compete in women's athletics. You know, and I like the idea of these rights coming together and not even really meshing, but kind of banging against each other. And how are we going to solve this? How are we going to solve this? Okay? And I don't know how we can, especially when what's one of the things transgenderism leads to. Gender fluidity. Wow, that just strikes me as awfully convenient. And I'm going to tell you something. Things like that, they're either a psychosis, in which case the person I think would genuinely deserve some Christian charity, if there really is a mental illness involved there, or it's just plain evil. It's just people trying to create a situation that they can take advantage of, really for their own benefit. It's completely convenient. And it's going to go beyond athletics eventually. I mean, you've got things such as minority content laws, or laws that require a certain amount of business come from minority-owned businesses or female-owned businesses. And, well, what's to stop me as a business owner from beginning to identify as a woman or as a black? I mean, why can't there be racial fluidity if there's going to be gender fluidity? And even better, I could go out as a black woman and really corner the market and get these minority contracts. And then in 10 years when I retire, I go, oh, wow, I'm a guy after all. Sorry about that, but thanks for the money. That's where this sort of thing can lead. And it could not only destroy women's rights, it could destroy minority rights too. And that's something we need to remember. The real question here is, when you separate yourself from reality, where does it stop? The answer is it does not stop. It just keeps on going on and on and on, and gets worse and worse, and it gets more bizarre, until it's completely unintelligible, and we just can't make any satisfactory progression into the future. I'm going to fall back on C.S. Lewis again real quick here. He actually had what I think is an interesting definition of a progressive. You're progressive if you're going forward, correct? I think that's part of the reason the modern American left likes the term. But Lewis taught that if you find yourself going the wrong direction, what really is progress? Going backward is progress. Going back to where you made the mistake and starting over from the mistake and proceeding from there. That's real progressivism. That's a useful progressivism when we're going forward based on true facts and true ideas. When we're going forward based on reality. The real bottom line here is, and I'm going to key this specifically into transgenderism since that's the example I used, is you are not of necessity who you think you are. You could be totally different than what you think you are. In the case of transgender, if you're born a man, you're a man, no matter what else you might think. You are certainly not of necessity whoever you wish to be. If you're a guy, you're a guy, no matter how much you might wish to be something else, whether it's female or one of the other 3,600 other genders they think exist now. At the end of the day, you are what you are. You must be grounded in reality, and that begins with you realizing what's right and true. That begins with accepting certain things as self-evident and proceeding from there for a useful future for yourself and for the people around you. That's your Marty monologue for today. As always on the Michigan Conservative Roundtable, be safe, watch your six, and don't tread on me.